Lads and lassies, welcome back to the final episode, number 4, in our third segment regarding effective communication in today's real estate market. I am your host, Justin Dower, Spectrum Real Estate Consultants team at Keller Williams, Northern Rhode Island. And we are here to tell you about communication during the legal process in your real estate transaction. This one is requiring extreme attention to detail, and you can understand why. Contracts are a part of every real estate transaction, and one that can be daunting and unfamiliar to people who have not dealt with legal documentation before. But more power to you, smarty pants. If you've got the gumption to go and learn it all and be prepared for this portion of your real estate journey, then let's help you learn how to do it. So here in Rhode Island and in many other places around the U.S., the local Realtor Association's attorney has created more or less fill-in-the-blank style documentation that can be employed during a real estate transaction. The unfortunate news for you, since you don't need no stinking realtor, is that those will be unavailable to you. They are only available to licensed real estate professionals, and we are schooled regularly in updates on contracts law by virtue of having to do our continuing education to keep our license current. These sorts of things also are appearing to us in our reading. And as licensed real estate professionals, we like to keep tabs on these sorts of updates constantly anyway, because it keeps us ahead of the curve. You never know what curveball is going to arrive in legal contracts, and if you're unaware of it, it gets sidelined a real estate transaction pretty quickly. But this is easily solved with throwing a little bit of money at the problem. Obviously, you're going to need a real estate attorney anyway in most localities to represent you in the closing. But in lots of localities, Rhode Island included, your realtor does a lot of the heavy lifting before you have to pay an attorney. Now, you may have to pay a little bit more because you are acquiring the services of this attorney much more early in the process, but hey, you know, that's the way it's got to be. Maybe you're still saving yourself a buck. So go for it. But it is crucially important that you get a hold of and retain this attorney, whomever they may be, well ahead of listing your property. They're going to be able to guide you on potential hiccups and compliance issues down the road that you want to stay ahead of. And you generally just want to have an open line of communication and an understanding between yourself and legal counsel before you start doing what are very legal binding steps. Just listing a property for sale has legal ramifications. If it's not conducted the way it's supposed to be legally, you can end up in hot water. So get a hold of that attorney early. Make sure you're having that conversation with them early. And it's also important to learn what is the norm, custom in your home state and locality. Here in Rhode Island, for example, it is very, very typical and almost standard for your realtor, if you've got one, to handle the purchase and sales document for you and many other things up to and along the way to signing a contract for sale with a potential buyer. However, just across state lines, maybe 5 minutes from where I'm sitting today in Lincoln, Rhode Island, it is not customary for a realtor to be preparing the purchase and sales agreement in Massachusetts. And if I as a realtor or you as a seller are insisting that you yourself and the buyer themselves, without the aid of a real estate attorney, are preparing the purchase and sales document, it's going to ring alarm bells for sure. Even if it's a completely private sale between you and a buyer and there is no buyer's agent involved, they're going to speak with their own attorney who is going to tell them this person is wacky. They should not be trying to get you to sign a purchase and sales agreement that has not been reviewed by an attorney yet. So make sure you understand the custom of the land before you step into that realm as well. Now, if there is a buyer's agent on the other side of your transaction, you not having an agent representing you, hopefully that buyer's agent will have access to the fill-in-the-blank style legal documents that the Rhode Island Realtor Association's attorney has created. And they can do some of that heavy lifting for you. You're saving a buck. However, understand that buyer's agent does not represent you at all, and they are not even interested in you getting a fair deal. In fact, their fiduciary duty is to their buyer and making the deal as favorable to their buyer as they possibly can. And there are all sorts of things in a purchase and sales document that can be written legally but in the favor of the buyer. And if you don't have representation, somebody looking out for you early in that process, you can really get into hot water. You know, it's a very competitive buyer's market out there, and you know, little things like time is of the essence with the earnest money deposit from the buyer. If that box isn't checked off and the buyer has what is understood to be more or less unlimited amount of time to get you that earnest money deposit, even though you both have signed that purchase and sales contract, and still consideration, aka money, has traded hands, it's very difficult to enforce that contract. And if the buyer finds another house that they like better, guess what? You've wasted a hell of a lot of time, and they might be skating on to that next house while you're holding a more or less worthless purchase and sales contract. So get to that attorney early. We know what we're talking about here. Now, even if you've got an attorney, you as a seller need to be extraordinarily detailed in reading every legal document that's coming across your desk. It's fine to just pass paperwork along to an attorney, but we need to understand that attorneys are people too, and they make mistakes, and they are very busy service providers. And some of the time, if you don't know your attorney is really good and you haven't gotten personal recommendation for somebody that you know is going to represent your interests in the best way possible, it's very possible that you're getting an attorney who's kind of just going through the motions and sliding paperwork across the desk. You know, hopefully it goes the way it's supposed to normally. So you need to protect yourself, you know, when it comes to integrations in your legal documents with the buyer and the buyer's agent, and when it comes to digesting and understanding those legal documents so that you know your stuff and you are reviewing everything in tandem with your attorney, not just leaving it to somebody else to make sure you're protected. That's never a good idea. You know, I didn't understand, quote unquote, is really never going to pass muster in a court of law. Ignorance of the law does not remove folks from responsibility in following it. So make sure you've got that underneath your wing. And at any point during your real estate journey, you know, seeking legal advice seems like a good thing to do. Just go ahead and do it. Again, we want this transaction to happen in as quickly a time period as possible. And if you've got that attorney on retainer and you know you have open lines of communication and you can contact them whenever you need to answer this or that question, you know, to kind of fill in the role of a realtor, you're going to be in a way better spot than you would otherwise. Having somebody in your corner who can definitively answer questions is also going to make you a more positive and concrete seller who is, you know, exhibiting the right behavior and body language, giving that same confidence and knowledge of information to their buyer. If you're doing anything in the opposite during the real estate transaction, it could set off alarm bells and, you know, raise questions. So make sure you've got that squared away. Now, throughout this segment, we've been talking about communication and effective communication, building trust. And as I just described, you are setting the tone. You are setting the expectation with your buyer, their agent, everybody else involved in their side of the real estate transaction. And you need to bring your best foot forward in the communication effort to really create, you know, that demeanor, to create that experience for everybody that's involved on the buyer side. It will make your transaction more valuable. You'll end up earning more money for certain. Now, we want to also hear from you guys. You know, if you've tried this before, or even if you've maybe had a realtor, you know, helping you out in the background and an attorney helping you out in the background, but still things went sideways somehow, we'd like to hear about that. You know, share it down in the comments. We would love to try to help you guys out if we can, give you some more advice, pointers, alpha, whatever the case may be. So ask those questions, share your experiences, and we'll be back with segment number 4 in our 11-part series about how you don't need no stinking realtor to sell you home, and you don't. We're going to teach you how. See you then.